The great war room of the Zephyrian Empire stretched out like a massive cathedral made of black stone and glowing crystals. Tall windows showed the stars beyond, where dozens of conquered worlds spun in their orbits. In the center of the room stood a huge table made of some metal that seemed to shift colors in the light. General Vextar walked slowly around the table, his forearms clasped behind his back. His skin was dark purple and his eyes were the color of liquid gold. Scars covered his face and neck, each one telling the story of a different battle on a different world. He had been fighting wars for 300 years, and he had never lost a single one. Around the table sat the members of the High War Council. There was Admiral Korth, whose people looked like giant insects with wings. General Slix came from a world of water, and her skin was smooth like a fish. Commander Valk had fur all over his body and teeth like a wolf. Each of them came from a different world, but they all served the Zephyrian Empire now. Admiral Kethvar stood at the head of the table, his young face bright with excitement. He was much younger than Vextar, maybe only 50 years old. His purple skin was smooth and unmarked by battle scars. He pointed at the large screen that showed a small blue and green planet. "Look at this world," Kethvar said, his voice full of confidence. "The humans call it Earth. It has everything we need: water, metals, and billions of workers. Their technology is so old that they still use chemical rockets to reach their own moon." The other council members nodded and made sounds of agreement. Admiral Korth clicked his mandibles together, which was how his people showed they were happy. General Slix's gills fluttered with excitement. Commander Valk showed his sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. Kethvar touched the screen, and it showed images of human cities. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light travel. They cannot even leave their own star system. This will be the easiest conquest in the history of our empire. "How many ships will you need?" asked Admiral Korth in his buzzing voice. "Perhaps 50 battlecruisers," Kethvar replied. "Maybe less. We could probably take their whole planet. With just 20 ships, their weapons cannot even scratch our hull armor." General Slix leaned forward. "What about their military? Do they have large armies?" Kethvar laughed. "They fight each other more than they fight anyone else. They have hundreds of different countries all arguing and competing. They spend more time fighting themselves than preparing for real threats. When we arrive, they will probably surrender immediately." The council members began talking excitedly about how they would divide up the Earth. Admiral Korth wanted the humans to work in his mining operations. General Slix thought they would make good servants for underwater colonies. Commander Valk suggested using them as soldiers in future wars, but General Vextar said nothing. He continued walking around the table, his golden eyes staring at the images of Earth. His expression was troubled, like someone thinking about a difficult problem. "What do you think, General Vextar?" asked Kethvar. "You have conquered more worlds than anyone else in this room. Surely you agree that this will be simple." Vexatar stopped walking. He looked at the screen showing Earth for a long moment. Then he turned to face the council. "I think we should not attack this world." The room became completely silent. "Admiral." Korth's clicking stopped. General Slix's gills went still. Commander Valk's smile disappeared. Even Kethvar stared at him with his mouth open. "What did you say?" Kethvar asked slowly. "I said we should not attack Earth," Vextar repeated. "We should leave the humans alone." Admiral Korth was the first to speak. "But General, look at them. They are weak. They have no defenses. They would be easy to defeat." "Easy?" Vextar asked. "You think conquering humans would be easy?" "Well, yes," said General Slix. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their weapons are primitive. They do not even have a united government." Vextar walked over to the screen and put one of his hands on it. The image of Earth reflected in his golden eyes. "I have studied this species for many years. I have watched them fight. I have seen what they do to their enemies, and I tell you now, if we attack Earth, we will regret it." Commander Valk laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "How can you be afraid of such a weak species? You have defeated enemies with plasma cannons and energy shields. These humans still use metal bullets and chemical explosives. I am not afraid, Vextar said quietly. I am careful. There is a difference. Kethavar stepped closer to the older general. General Vextar, with respect, I think you are being too cautious. Yes, humans might fight back, but they cannot win. Our technology is too advanced. Our ships are too powerful. Our soldiers are too well trained. Are they? Vextar asked. Tell me, Admiral Kethavar, how many wars have you fought? I have commanded in 12 major battles, Kethavar replied proudly. And how many of those battles were against species that had never seen space travel? Kethavar hesitated. Well, most of them. But that does not matter. Primitive species are easier to defeat. Usually, yes, Vextar agreed. But humans are not usual. The council members looked at each other with confusion. General Slick spoke first. What do you mean? How are they different from other primitive species? Vextar turned away from the screen and faced the council. Members of the High War Council, I request permission to present a full briefing on the human species. I want to show you exactly why we cannot and should not attempt to conquer Earth. This is ridiculous, Kethavar said angrily. We are wasting time. Every day we delay, the humans might develop better weapons. We should attack now while they are still weak. They are not weak, Vextar said firmly, and they never have been. If you give me 1 hour to present my findings, I will show you exactly what I mean. Admiral Korth clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. What kind of findings? Military, analysis, historical records, behavioral studies, everything I have learned about human warfare and human nature. After you see what I have discovered, you will understand why attacking Earth would be the worst mistake in the history of our empire. The council members looked at each other uncertainly. They had expected this meeting to be about planning an invasion, not about avoiding one. But General Vextar was the most successful military commander in their history. If he said something was dangerous, they had to listen. General Slicks was the first to speak. Very well, General. We will listen to your briefing, but it better be convincing. Oh, it will be, Vextar said grimly. When I am finished, you will understand why I would rather fight a dozen other species than one human soldier. He walked over to the control panel and began preparing his presentation. The screen flickered and changed, showing new images that made the council members lean forward with interest and growing concern. Let me tell you about the most dangerous species in the galaxy, Vextar said. Let me tell you about humans. General Vextar pressed a button on the control panel, and the large screen came alive with images. The council members watched as scenes of human warfare filled the display. They saw men in metal armor fighting with swords and spears. They saw soldiers in trenches shooting rifles at each other. They saw massive explosions and burning cities. This is what humans do, Vextar said, his voice calm and steady. They fight. They have been fighting for thousands of years, not just against other species, but against each other. Admiral Kethavar laughed. See? I told you they fight each other. They are divided and weak. This proves my point. No, Vextar said, shaking his head. You are not understanding. Watch more carefully. The screen showed a battle from long ago. Human soldiers were trapped on a hill surrounded by enemies. They had no way to escape. They were outnumbered 10 to 1. Any normal species would surrender. But the humans did not surrender. They fought harder. They used their dead friends as shields. They threw rocks when they ran out of bullets. They bit and clawed when they had no weapons left. They fought until every single one of them was dead. This is insane, whispered General Slicks. Why did they not surrender? They could have lived. Because humans do not fight just for survival, Vextar explained. They fight for ideas. They fight for honor. They fight for freedom. They fight for revenge. They will die for things that do not even exist. The screen changed to show another battle. This time, human soldiers were attacking a fortress that was impossible to capture. The walls were too high. The defenders had better weapons. It was clearly hopeless. But the humans kept attacking. When their ladders broke, they made new ones. When their weapons failed, They picked up rocks and sticks. When their leaders died, new leaders took their place. They attacked the same fortress for months, losing thousands of soldiers until finally they broke through. Commander Valk leaned forward. Their tactics are crude. Any proper military would have found a better way. Would they? Vextar asked. He touched the screen and it showed the same battle from a different angle. Look at what they did while they were attacking the front gates. The screen showed other human soldiers digging tunnels under the fortress. While everyone was watching the main attack, these humans were working underground for weeks. They dug under the walls and filled the tunnels with explosives. When they set off the bombs, the entire fortress collapsed. The frontal attack was a trick, Vexitar said. They knew they could not break through the gates, so they made the defenders think that was their only plan. Meanwhile, they were digging underneath. The humans won through deception and patience. Admiral, Korth clicked his mandibles nervously. That is, clever. But still, their weapons are primitive. Are they? Vextar asked. The screen showed human soldiers in a more recent battle. They were fighting with metal weapons that shot small bullets. But they were not using them the way other species would use weapons. One human soldier was trapped in a building with enemies all around him. Instead of fighting normally, he took apart his weapon and used the pieces to make a bomb. He blew up the entire building, killing himself and 20 enemy soldiers. Another group of humans was being chased by vehicles. They had no heavy weapons to fight back, but they used their knowledge of the land. They led the enemy vehicles into a swamp where they got stuck. Then they attacked with simple weapons and won. Humans do not just use weapons, Vextar said. They use everything. They use the weather, they use the land, they use their enemy's own strength against them. They turn farming tools into weapons. They turn children's toys into bombs. They turn their own bodies into weapons when they have nothing else. The screen showed more battles. In each one, humans were outnumbered or outgunned, but they kept finding ways to win. They hid in forests and attacked like wild animals. They pretended to be dead and then struck when enemies came close. They used their enemies' own weapons against them. General Slicks watched with growing alarm. They fight like savages. No honor, no rules. No, Vextar said firmly. They fight like survivors, and that makes them more dangerous than any species we have ever faced. The screen changed to show something that made the council members gasp. It was a human city under attack. The enemy had better weapons and more soldiers. The city should have fallen in hours. But the humans turned every building into a fortress. They fought from the rooftops and the basements. They used sewers to move around unseen. Children as young as 10 years old were carrying weapons and fighting alongside adults. Old people who could barely walk were making bombs in their homes. This is not a military, breathed Commander Valk. This is an entire population at war. Exactly, Vextar said. When humans fight, everyone fights. Not just soldiers. Everyone. The doctors make poison. The teachers make bombs. The children become spies. The old people become saboteurs. You are not fighting an army. You are fighting an entire species. The screen showed the battle for the city continuing for months. The attackers had better weapons and more soldiers, but they were slowly losing. Every day more of their soldiers died. Every day the humans found new ways to hurt them. The attackers finally gave up and left. They won, Admiral Korth said in disbelief. Primitive humans defeated a superior force. This happens over and over, Vextar said. Humans have been invaded many times by other humans with better weapons and more soldiers. Sometimes the invaders win quickly, but sometimes they do not. And when they do not, the humans make them pay a terrible price. The screen showed another battle. This time, human soldiers were retreating from a much larger enemy force. But they were not running away in panic. They were moving in perfect order, fighting every step of the way. Watch how they retreat, Vextar said. They are not running, they are conducting a fighting withdrawal. They make the enemy pay for every step of ground. They destroy everything useful as they go. They leave nothing for the enemy to use. The retreating humans blew up bridges behind them. They poisoned wells. They burned crops. They turned their own land into a wasteland rather than let their enemies use it. This is their greatest strength, Vextar said. They will destroy everything, including themselves, rather than be conquered. They would rather die free than live as slaves. Admiral. Kethavar was staring at the screen with his mouth open. But surely with our superior technology, we could overcome their resistance. Vextar touched the screen again. It showed human soldiers examining pieces of alien technology. These are pieces of a Krill scout ship that crashed on Earth 5 years ago. Watch what the humans did with it. The screen showed human scientists working on the alien technology. They took it apart piece by piece. They studied every part. They figured out how it worked. Then they started building their own versions. In just 5 years, they went from not knowing this technology existed to building their own copies, Vextar said. They learn from everything. Every weapon used against them becomes their weapon. Every tactic used against them becomes their tactic. The screen showed human soldiers training with weapons that looked almost like Zephyrian energy rifles. They were crude copies, but they worked. They are already preparing for us, Vextar said quietly. They know we are out here. They know we are watching them, and they are getting ready. The council members sat in stunned silence. They had expected to see a weak, primitive species. Instead, they had seen something that made them afraid. There is more, Vextar said. Much more. And it gets worse. He looked around the table at the frightened faces of the council members. Shall I continue? They nodded, unable to speak. Very well, Vextar said. Let me show you what happens when humans get truly angry. General Vextar moved closer to the screen and pressed another control. The display changed to show Earth from space, but this time it looked different. The council could see ice covering the northern parts, burning deserts in the middle, and thick green forests everywhere else. Look at this planet, Vextar said. Most species live in one type of place. The Zephyrians prefer warm, dry worlds. The Krill like cold planets with thin air. The Vorthan need water worlds, but humans live everywhere on their planet. The screen zoomed in to show humans living in frozen lands where the temperature was far below freezing. They had built cities in the ice. They hunted giant animals for food. They had learned to survive where most other species would die in minutes. These humans live where water turns to stone, Vextar said. The air is so cold it hurts to breathe. But they do not just survive. They build homes. They raise families. They create art and music. The screen changed to show humans living in burning hot deserts. The sand was so hot it could burn skin. There was almost no water. The sun was bright enough to blind. But humans lived there too. They had found ways to get water from the air. They traveled across the burning sand on animals. They knew which plants could be eaten and which ones were poison. Admiral Korth clicked his mandibles. So they can live in different places. Many species can adapt to new environments. Can they? Vextar asked. The screen showed humans living underwater in the deep ocean. They had built cities on the ocean floor. They farmed fish like other species farmed plants. They had learned to work in crushing water pressure that would kill most aliens instantly. Then, the screen showed humans living on top of the highest mountains, where the air was so thin that breathing was difficult. They climbed cliffs that were almost straight up. They lived in caves carved out of solid rock. Humans live everywhere on their planet, Vextar said, in the frozen north and the burning south, on top of mountains and at the bottom of oceans, in thick forests and empty deserts. No other species we know can do this. General Slicks leaned forward. But this is just their home planet. They have not spread to other worlds. Have they not? Vexitar asked. The screen showed images of human space stations orbiting Earth. They have built cities in space where there is no air to breathe and no ground to stand on. They have learned to live in metal boxes floating in the void. The screen showed humans working outside their space stations wearing bulky suits. They were building new sections, adding to their orbital cities. They moved through space like they were swimming through water. They have been in space for less than 100 years, Vextar said. Already they are talking about building colonies. On other planets, they want to spread across their entire star system, and after that they will want to spread to other stars. Commander Valk showed his teeth. Their space technology is still primitive. They use chemical rockets. They cannot travel faster than light. Not yet, Vextar agreed. But watch this. The screen showed a timeline of human technological development. It started with humans using simple stone tools, then metal tools, then machines powered by steam, then electricity, then nuclear power, then computers, then space travel. Look at how fast they advance, Vextar said. From their first flight to landing on their moon took only 66 years. Most species take centuries. To develop space travel, humans did it in a single lifetime. The timeline continued, showing human technology advancing faster and faster. Their computers became smaller and more powerful. Their rockets became bigger and more efficient. Their weapons became more deadly. At this rate, they will have faster than light. Travel within 50 years, Vextar said. Maybe sooner. Admiral Kethvar shook his head. Even if they do develop better technology, they are still just one species on one planet. We control hundreds of worlds. Do we? Vextar asked. The screen showed intelligence reports from Zephyrian spies. These are reports from our scouts who have been watching Earth. Read what they have discovered. The screen showed images of human research facilities. In one building, humans were working on machines that looked similar to Zephyrian computers, but smaller and faster. In another building, they were testing weapons that used focused light beams like Zephyrian energy weapons but powered differently. They are reverse engineering our technology, Vextar said. Every time one of our scout ships gets too close to Earth, the humans track it. When we leave debris behind, they study it. They learn from everything we accidentally give them. The screen showed a human scientist named Dr. Paul Morgan examining a piece of Zephyrian hull armor. He was taking measurements and running tests. Next to him, other humans were trying to recreate the same material using Earth resources. This human has figured out how our armor works, Vextar said. He is trying to make his own version. In 6 months, he has learned what took our species 200 years to develop. The council members were starting to look worried. General Slicks spoke first. How is this possible? Our technology is far more advanced than theirs. Because humans learn differently than we do, Vextar explained. Most species learn slowly and carefully. They test everything many times. They follow rules and traditions. Humans learn by breaking things apart and trying to understand how they work. The screen showed human children taking apart mechanical toys to see what was inside. It showed human students asking endless questions that annoyed their teachers. It showed human inventors trying crazy ideas that other species would never attempt. They are not afraid to fail, Vextar said. They try things that seem impossible. Most of the time they fail, but sometimes they succeed. And when they succeed, they advance much faster than anyone expected. The screen showed a human engineer named Tim Roberts working on a crashed krill fighter. The ship had been destroyed, but Roberts was studying the wreckage. He had figured out how the krill energy shields worked and was building a human version. The krill spent 1,000 years developing their shield technology, Vextar said. This human has duplicated it in 3 years using only broken pieces and his own intelligence. Commander Valk was no longer smiling. This is disturbing, but surely they cannot match our military technology. Vextar pressed another control. The screen showed a secret human military base. Inside, soldiers were training with weapons that looked almost like Zephyrian plasma rifles. They were crude copies, but they were working. They are already building copies of our weapons, Vextar said. These prototypes are not as good as the originals, but they improve every month. Soon they will be just as effective as ours. The screen showed General Kate Sullivan, a human military leader, talking to her officers. She was pointing at star charts and discussing battle plans for fighting enemies with superior technology. They are planning for war with us, Vextar said. They know we exist. They know we are more advanced, and they are preparing to fight us anyway. The screen showed human factories working day and night to build new weapons. It showed underground bunkers filled with supplies. It showed communication networks that could survive orbital bombardment. They are not just preparing to fight, Vextar said. They are preparing to win. Admiral Korth was clicking his mandibles rapidly, a sign of extreme nervousness. But how can they win against our superior numbers and technology? The same way they always win, Vextar said. By adapting, by learning, by refusing to give up, by turning our own strengths against us. The screen showed human military strategists studying Zephyrian tactics. They had somehow obtained recordings of Zephyrian battles and were analyzing them carefully. They were learning how the Empire fought and developing countermeasures. They know our standard attack patterns, Vextar said. They know how we organize our fleets. They know our weapons and our weaknesses. They are ready for us. The screen showed a human commander named Alex Davis training Special Forces soldiers. They were practicing fighting in zero gravity, preparing for battles in space. They were learning to use captured alien weapons. They were studying alien anatomy to know where to aim their shots. These humans have been preparing for this war for years, Vextar said. While we have been ignoring them, they have been studying us. They know more about us than we know about them. The council members sat in stunned silence. They had come to this meeting expecting to plan an easy conquest. Instead, they were learning about an enemy that might be more dangerous than any they had ever faced. There is still more, Vextar said quietly. The worst part is yet to come. He looked around the table at their frightened faces. Are you prepared to hear the true cost of this war? General Vextar moved to a different control panel. The screen went dark for a moment, then filled with numbers and charts that made the council members lean forward to see better. The data was in red, which in Zephyrian culture meant danger. These are the casualty estimates for a war against Earth, Vextar said. His voice was grave and serious. I have run the calculations hundreds of times. The numbers are always the same, always terrible. The screen showed battle simulations. Zephyrian ships were attacking Earth, but the humans were fighting back with everything they had. The numbers at the bottom of the screen showed how many soldiers would die on both sides. Admiral Kethvar studied the numbers and gasped. This cannot be correct. You are saying we would lose 2 million soldiers? In the first month alone, Vextar said, the complete invasion would cost us at least 8 million soldiers, maybe more. The council members stared at the screen in shock. The Zephyrian Empire had 12 million soldiers total. Losing 8 million would cripple their entire military. How is this possible? Asked General Slicks. We have better weapons, better ships, better armor. Because humans do not fight the way other species fight, Vextar explained. The screen showed what a human city would look like during an invasion. Every building had been turned into a fortress. Every street was blocked with barriers. Every window had soldiers with weapons. Most species have armies that fight in open spaces, Vextar said. When the army is defeated, the war is over. Humans are different. When their army is defeated, the real war begins. The screen showed human civilians picking up weapons. Old. Men who had not fought in 50 years were grabbing rifles. Women were making bombs in their kitchens. Children were carrying messages between fighters. Everyone was part of the war. You are not just fighting their soldiers, Vextar said. You are fighting their entire population. Every human is a potential enemy. Every building is a potential fortress. Every street is a potential battlefield. The simulation continued. Zephyrian soldiers were moving through a human city, but they were being attacked from everywhere. Snipers were shooting from rooftops. Bombs were exploding under their feet. Humans were attacking them with knives and hammers when they ran out of bullets. Look at the casualty rate, Vextar said, pointing to the numbers. For every block we capture, we lose 30 soldiers. For every building we take, we lose 50. The humans make us pay in blood for every step forward. Commander Valk was studying the simulation carefully. But eventually, we would win. We have more soldiers and better weapons. Would we? Vextar asked. The screen changed to show what happened after the Zephyrians captured a human city. The humans had destroyed everything useful before retreating. Power plants were blown up. Water treatment facilities were wrecked. Food warehouses were burned. Hospitals were demolished. They leave us nothing, Vextar said. We capture empty buildings and broken machines. We have to rebuild everything ourselves while fighting their guerrilla attacks. The screen showed human resistance fighters attacking Zephyrian supply convoys. They hid in forests and struck without warning. They poisoned water supplies. They sabotaged communication equipment. They made it impossible for the occupying forces to function normally. This is what happened to the Krill when they tried to establish a base on Earth 5 years ago, Vextar said. The screen showed a different set of battle records. The Krill sent a force of 5,000 soldiers to build a colony. They had energy shields and plasma weapons. They thought it would be easy. The simulation showed the Krill landing on Earth and starting to build their base. At first, everything went well. The humans seemed to avoid them. The Krill thought the humans were afraid. But the humans were not afraid, Vextar said. They were planning. The screen showed what really happened. The humans had been watching the Krill from a distance. They studied their technology. They learned their patrol patterns. They found the weaknesses in their defenses. Then the humans attacked. They did not fight the way the Krill expected. They did not march up to the base with an army. Instead, they struck like invisible ghosts in the night. The humans infiltrated the base using the sewage system, Vextar said. They placed explosives in the power generator. They poisoned the food supply. They hacked into the computer systems and turned the base defenses against the Krill themselves. The screen showed the Krill base being destroyed from the inside. The explosions started small, then grew bigger. The base's own weapons began firing at Krill soldiers. Communication systems went dead. Emergency systems failed. In one night, the humans killed 3,000 Krill soldiers without losing more than 50 of their own, Vextar said. The remaining Krill tried to escape to their ships, but the humans had sabotaged those too. The screen showed Krill soldiers running toward their landing craft, but the ships would not start. The humans had damaged the engines. The Krill were trapped on Earth with no way to call for help. What happened to the survivors? Asked Admiral Korth. There were no survivors, Vextar said quietly. The humans hunted down every single Krill soldier. Some fought to the death. Others tried to surrender. It did not matter. The humans killed them all. The council members sat in horrified silence. The Krill were not weaklings. They were experienced warriors with advanced technology. If humans could destroy them so completely, what would they do to a larger invasion force? The humans learned everything they could from the Krill technology, Vextar continued. They studied the weapons, the armor, the computers, the ships. Everything the Krill brought to Earth became human technology within months. The screen showed human scientists working with captured Krill equipment. Dr. Nancy White was examining a Krill energy shield generator. Engineer Tim Roberts was rebuilding a Krill plasma rifle. Commander Steve Johnson was studying Krill battle tactics. They turned their victory into a learning opportunity, Vextar said. Every piece of Krill technology became a blueprint for human advancement. The Krill defeat made humans stronger. Admiral Kethvar was staring at the screen with his mouth open. But surely a larger force would be different. The Krill only sent 5,000 soldiers. We would send millions. Would we? Vextar asked. The screen showed resource allocation charts. This is what a full invasion of Earth would cost, not just in soldiers but in ships, weapons, supplies, and time. The numbers were staggering. The invasion would require 60% of the entire Zephyrian fleet. It would take 3 years to complete. It would cost more resources than any war in Empire history. And while we are spending all our resources fighting humans, Vextar said, what happens to the rest of our empire? The screen showed a map of Zephyrian space. Other alien species were marked in different colors. Some were labeled as potential threats. The Vorthon Confederation has been building their fleet for 50 years, Vextar said. They are waiting for us to show weakness. The moment we commit our forces to Earth, they will attack our outer colonies. The screen showed simulation of what would happen if the Zephyrians were fighting on 2 fronts. The results were catastrophic. The Empire would collapse within 5 years. The Nexus Alliance has been watching us too, Vextar continued. They have weapons we do not fully understand. If we are weakened by a war with humans, they will strike at our core worlds. General Slicks was looking at the charts with growing alarm. You are saying that fighting humans would destroy our entire empire. I am saying that even if we won against humans, we would lose everything else. Vextar replied. We would spend so much strength conquering one primitive planet that we would become vulnerable to every other threat in the galaxy. The screen showed the final calculation. Even in the best-case scenario, where humans were completely defeated, the Zephyrian Empire would be so weakened that other enemies would quickly destroy it. "There is one more thing," Vextar said. "Something that makes this even worse." The screen showed intelligence reports from human military planners. They were not just preparing to defend Earth. They were preparing to take the war to their enemies. "The humans have been building ships," Vextar said. "Hidden ships that we have not detected. They are planning to strike back at any species that attacks them." The screen showed secret human shipyards built inside asteroids. Dozens of warships were under construction. They were crude compared to Zephyrian vessels, but they were armed with weapons copied from Krill and other alien technologies. "If we attack Earth, they will not just defend their planet," Vextar said. "They will send their ships to attack our worlds. They will bring the war to us." The screen showed human battle plans for attacking Zephyrian colonies. The humans had identified the weakest targets and planned to strike them while the main Zephyrian fleet was busy at Earth. Commander Valk was no longer showing his teeth. He looked frightened. "They would dare to attack us?" "They are humans," Vextar said simply. "They do not know the meaning of impossible. If we hurt them, they will hurt us back. If we threaten their world, they will threaten ours. They will never stop fighting until either they win or they are all dead." The screen showed the final simulation, a war between humans and Zephyrians that spread across the galaxy. Billions of deaths on both sides, the destruction of entire worlds, the collapse of galactic civilization. This is the price of conquering Ea. General Vextar stood quietly for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in. The council members sat in their chairs, staring at the screen that still showed the terrible simulations of war. The room was completely silent, except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Finally, Vextar moved to the control panel one last time. "There is something else you need to understand about humans, something that changes everything." The screen showed new images. These were not battles or weapons. They showed human families, parents holding children, friends helping each other, scientists working together to cure diseases, artists creating beautiful music and paintings. "Humans are not just warriors," Vextar said. "They are also capable of great kindness. They can be gentle and caring. They help those who are weak. They sacrifice themselves to save others. They create art and beauty even in the middle of wars." Admiral Kethvar looked confused. "What does this have to do with military conquest?" "Everything," Vextar replied. "It means humans can be either our greatest enemy or our greatest ally. The choice is ours." The screen showed human doctors working to save lives during disasters. It showed human teachers helping children learn. It showed human engineers building machines to make life better for everyone. "Most species in the galaxy are predictable," Vextar said. "The Krill are always aggressive. The Vorthan are always suspicious. The Nexus beings are always logical. But humans are complex. They can be many different things." The screen changed to show human space explorers. They were not carrying weapons. They were scientists and engineers trying to learn about the universe. Their ships had messages of peace written on them in hundreds of different languages. "Some humans want to explore the galaxy in peace," Vextar said. "They want to meet other species and learn from them. They want to share knowledge and work together to solve problems." The council members looked at these peaceful humans with surprise. This was not what they had expected to see. "But other humans are preparing for war," Vextar continued. The screen showed human military bases and weapon factories. They believe that any alien species they meet will try to conquer them, so they are building defenses and planning attacks. The screen split to show both types of humans side by side. On one side were scientists and diplomats. On the other side were soldiers and generals. "The question is," Vextar said, "which type of human do we want to meet? The choice is entirely up to us." General Slicks leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "If we attack Earth, we will meet the warrior humans," Vexitar explained. "They will fight us with everything they have. They will never surrender. They will make us pay a terrible price for every victory, and if any of us survive, they will hunt us across the galaxy seeking revenge. The screen showed simulations of the war they had already discussed. Millions of deaths, burning cities, fleets destroyed, civilizations collapsing. But if we approach them peacefully, Vextar continued, we might meet the other humans, the ones who want to explore and learn and build, the ones who could become our partners instead of our enemies. The screen showed a different simulation. This one showed Zephyrian ships approaching Earth slowly, broadcasting messages of peace. Human ships came out to meet them, but they were not attacking. They were escorting the aliens to a meeting place. Imagine what we could accomplish together, Vextar said. Human creativity combined with our technology, human adaptability working with our knowledge, human determination supporting our goals. The screen showed images of humans and aliens working side by side. They were building ships together. They were exploring new planets together. They were sharing discoveries and solving problems that neither species could handle alone. Commander Valk was staring at the screen with fascination. This could actually work? It could, Vextar said. But only if we approach them correctly. Only if we show them that we come in peace. Only if we prove that we are not trying to conquer them. The screen showed more details of peaceful first contact. Human diplomats and Zephyrian ambassadors were sitting at a table, talking and learning about each other. There were no weapons visible, no threats, no fear. The humans have protocols for this, Vextar said. They have planned for the possibility of meeting peaceful aliens. They have people trained in diplomacy and translation. They want to be ready for friendly contact. The screen showed a human woman named Ambassador Lisa Martinez. She was studying alien languages and cultures. She had spent years preparing for the day when humans would meet other intelligent species. This human has learned to speak 17 different alien languages, Vextar said. She has studied our customs and our history. She knows more about Zephyrian culture than most Zephyrians do. The council members looked impressed. Admiral Korth clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. She studied us without ever meeting us? Humans are very good at learning, Vextar reminded them. They prepare for everything, including things that have never happened before. The screen showed human scientists working on translation devices. They were building machines that could instantly translate between human and alien languages. They were preparing for conversations with species they had never met. They want to talk to us, Vextar said. They want to understand us, they want to learn from us. But they will only do this if we approach them as friends, not as conquerors. Admiral Kethavar was studying the peaceful scenarios with interest. What would we gain from such an alliance? More than we could ever gain from conquest, Vextar replied. The screen showed the benefits of cooperation. Human innovation could solve problems that had puzzled Zephyrian scientists for centuries. Human adaptability could help them colonize difficult planets. Human determination could help them face threats from other species. Together, we would be stronger than either species could be alone, Vextar said. The Empire would benefit greatly from human partnership. The screen showed joint exploration missions. Human and Zephyrian scientists were discovering new worlds together. They were sharing resources and knowledge. They were building a future that benefited everyone. But what if the humans refuse our offer of peace? Asked General Slicks. What if they choose to be hostile? Then we will have learned something important without starting a war, Vextar said. We will know that they are dangerous enemies who should be avoided. We can withdraw and leave them alone. No one dies. No resources are wasted. No empires collapse. The screen showed this scenario too. Zephyrian ships approaching Earth peacefully, being refused contact, and then leaving without fighting. It was disappointing but not catastrophic. The point is, Vextar said, we have options other than war. We can choose cooperation over conquest. We can choose alliance over destruction. We can choose to build instead of destroy. The screen showed the final comparison. On one side was the war scenario, with its terrible costs and uncertain outcomes. On the other side was the peace scenario, with its potential for mutual benefit and growth. I have fought in hundreds of wars, Vextar said. I have conquered dozens of species. I have seen what war really costs, not just in soldiers and ships, but in opportunities lost and futures destroyed. He turned to face the council directly. I am telling you now that humans are different. They are not another species to be conquered. They are either the greatest threat we will ever face, or the greatest ally we could ever have. The choice is ours. The council members sat in silence, thinking about everything they had heard. The weight of the decision was enormous. They could choose war and risk everything. Or they could choose peace and possibly gain everything. Admiral Korth was the first to speak. General Vextar, what do you recommend? Vextar looked at each council member in turn. I recommend that we send a small diplomatic mission to Earth. No weapons, no threats, just a message of peaceful contact and an offer of friendship. And if they refuse? Asked Commander Valk. Then we leave them alone and prepare for the day when they come looking for us, Vextar said. Because they will come. Humans always do. The question is whether they will come as friends or as enemies. The council members looked at each other, then back at Vextar. They had come to this meeting expecting to plan an invasion. Instead, they were considering the possibility of peace. We need time to think about this, Admiral Kethavar said finally. Of course, Vextar replied. But do not take too long. Every day we delay, the humans grow stronger. Soon the choice may not be ours to make. He turned off the screen and walked toward the door. Remember, he said without turning around, the greatest victory is the war you never have to fight. The council chamber fell silent as General Vextar left. The council members remained in their seats, staring at the now dark screen, each of them thinking about the future of their empire and the small blue planet called Earth.